Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. Today I'm joined by Joey and Brian. We had a little off week. Did you guys enjoy your time away from the Dispatch?
I mean, speaking for myself, at least, through the holidays, it was pretty busy, really enjoyable time, but I think we all needed a week off ahead of this thrilling draw. So happy to be back, though, as always.
Yeah, I think the break was much needed, especially considering we've started the Rückrunde exactly the way we started the Hinrunde. So it's pretty funny, at least in terms of the scoreline, anyway.
Yeah, I feel like we went at that, we had a stretch as a podcast where I think we went 58 straight weeks or something. We were over a year, I think. So truly impressive for us, I gotta say. But let me know if I'm lying. I feel like our YouTube commenters will know. But yeah, how did you guys feel about this match? I believe, Joey, you got to watch the first half?
I did, yeah. As a match on a whole, I'm not too upset with it. I mean, sure, the win would have been good. You always want 3 points, but there were a lot of positives within this match. I mean, Nico Schlotterbeck had a really great shot at one point. I think it was a storming header off the crossbar. Svensson had one off the woodwork too. So I did feel like the draw in the end. I mean, it's kind of funny because in typical Dortmund fashion, especially this season, it's been a trend where we take a lead and then we can't hold on to the lead. And we had the lead twice and we dropped it twice. And then it really looked like we were going to capitulate in the end. And I mean, I jumped off my couch and celebrated as if we had won when Chukwuemeka put in that equalizing goal at the end. So definitely a little disappointed with the draw, just because we dropped points. And I do think, especially the second half, that Dortmund played, we just played better than them. But have to give some credit to Frankfurt's tenacity, and they're an inconsistent team, and they played exactly how they've played for much of the season, which is high scoring, high concession football. So I wish we could have gotten the win, and there's a couple issues I did have with the match that I'm sure we'll get into. But overall, I was satisfied because at the very least, this was an entertaining game. And a lot of the draws can lead to some kind of boring stretches, but I never really felt that with this one. So happy that German football's back.
Entertaining from a neutral's perspective, surely
Sure.
stressful when you're of the Dortmund inclination. No, but yeah, I mean, what Joey just said, I mean, going forward, I think Dortmund looked fairly good. I mean, Maxi Bayer's goal for the opener, 9 minutes in, perfect way to start the game, right? And great to see him actually finishing those chances, because we've kind of talked a little bit about this in the past where, he's the type of player that has a lot of chances, doesn't score many. But this one he took really, really well. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Overall performance-wise, I think you're looking honestly at a fairly weak defensive performance when it comes to Dortmund's elite standards for this season. They are the second best defense in the league right now, behind Bayern. I don't know how much that those 3 goals changed that in the last game or whatever, but at least going into the game, second best defense of the league season so far. So I mean, even from the first half, I feel like Frankfurt was bullying Dortmund's defense a little bit more than I would have liked, just because going through the middle and going against their back three, it was fairly easy for them. They did have quite a few chances. Obviously, aside from, the defensive mistakes that I'm sure we'll once again talk a little bit more about in another section of this. episode. I think that, the penalty, obviously, very stupid way to allow Frankfurt to get back into the game, because that gives them a foothold and allows them to build that confidence and to perform the way they did. But yeah, I just feel like the defensive display was fairly lacking in this. It didn't have to be a 3-3. But Frankfurt did a really good job of really going at the defense and going through the middle of the pitch, really, and putting Dortmund's defense just under pressure, because tactical fouls were a thing, particularly in the first half. You had Anton and Sula both get yellow cards. So they clearly wasn't a secure performance, in my opinion, in that sense. But going forward, I do think that we saw a lot of bright spots. The creativity was definitely there. And yeah, obviously going down 3-2 in the final minutes of the game and being able to pull it back to 3-3 is an overall positive. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to defer from you, Brian, on a couple things. Maxi Bayer this year is actually overperforming his XG in all competition. Well, actually, I'll say something positive for you about what you said about like Maxi Bayer's finishing. So coming into this match, he would have had 3.2 XG in the league, 1.1 in the Champions League, which would put him at about 4.3 XG, and he had only scored 4 goals. And like the bias of him missing big chances and then finishing the much smaller chances is kind of what's happened this season. That's been the story of his campaign. Like he'll get a big chance at about 0.3 to 0.6 XG, miss that, and then score a chance worth about 0.11, like a very average chance. But after this match, he now has 5 goals from 4.7 XG, like very sustainable what we're seeing from Maxi Bayer right now. But what I really have to disagree with is, like, if you look at the shot map from this game for Eintracht Frankfurt, like, yes, Dortmund are letting them get some touches in the box and stuff like that, but a lot of the shots they're taking are under a little bit of pressure, and if you kind of make, like, a little arc inside the penalty area, and you go right around the goal, and you have, like, a 3-point line, obviously, shape. But if you have that around the center of the box for Dortmund, all the shots from Frankfurt are kind of coming from outside that. They had some pressure. They had some nice blocks on shots, which just decreases the likelihood of those shots going in. I think there's a little bit of like the goals went in for Frankfurt and you have a penalty. Like half their XG in this match, according to FBref, came from the penalty, a little under half according to SofaScore's XG model. So I think that the defensive performance in this game wasn't as bad as like you're saying. But like this is a theme we've seen with Dortmund, and I don't know if it's Gregor Kobel having like an off day or whatever it may be, but Dortmund really need to figure out something defensively.
I mean, I guess just to clarify, like my point with regards to this, I'm not necessarily talking about the shots taken and all that. I'm talking about the runs and the pressure that defense was put under. So there were numerous instances where, once again, for example, Niklas Sula and Valdemar Anton both had to put in a tactical foul to stop the play, and it was going through the middle of the pitch.
Oh, so for sure.
Putting them into positions, like not necessarily even talking about the shots, just the positions that Frankfurt was putting themselves into, by attacking that back three. And I think they did that fairly effectively. Obviously, their shooting might have come from different positions, but I'm just talking about the positions that they were putting themselves in with the ball. So, yeah, I thought that was unnecessary because that was creating dangerous situations. Whether or not those shots went off, they were there were chances for that to go ahead and go through. So that's more what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I think essentially kind of the issue Dortmund faced in this match is like a lot of direct play from Frankfurt kind of bypassing our midfield. And then when we're on the ball, it still feels like it's very hard for us to like take control of a game, especially when we're losing. We just don't have the quality in midfield to kind of just play 2-3 passes, get the ball out of pressure where you're not in a transition opportunity and you've slowed the play down. and that to me is like really a lot more of the issue. Because you need like your star midfielders. Obviously, we're missing Job through suspension, but you need them to kind of take control of the match, slow play down. Like that's one of the main reasons I feel like you're consistently seeing Dortmund concede chances with a positive game state.
Yeah, I mean midfield has been an issue for a while now, and I think that once again, kind of like what you're saying, this game definitely showed that. Um, yeah, I mean it all culminates into the issue being that we conceded 3 goals, and
Hmm.
our defenders, once again, I feel like we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Definitely had a little bit to play in that. We'll see who you guys choose for your star and duds of the week, but mine are very clear, and they are defenders. So
Well, I think I know who Joey and my stud of the week is gonna be. I don't know. I think everyone who's listened to our podcast before might know who we're thinking about, but I don't know. It could be someone else. You know, you never know.
Ugh,
Joey,
yeah.
do you have any thoughts on that? No,
Uh,
we'll
well,
save it for the next segment. Is there anything else we want to talk about this match? The only thing with the substitutions, like we can talk about substitutions all day as far as I'm concerned. But the only thing I'd really have to say about this match is you saw Fabio Silva come onto the pitch before Kareem Adeyemi. Kareem Adeyemi possibly missing out on starting this match over some of his actions coming off the pitch in the last one, but close match. I feel like maybe he comes on before Silva. Like I don't.
yeah,
It goes back to what I've said previously about Maxi Bayer being banned from playing striker.
I mean, I do think like wish we could have seen Adeyemi a little bit sooner, and like in some ways I feel kind of bad for the guy because I put the pregame on and it was like all the commentators could talk about. It was all Alejandro Moreno could talk about in the pregame is, oh, Kareem Adeyemi, and he had this weapons charge, and I kind of feel like it was I did dumb things in my early 20s, and I mean to me that like the whole disciplinary thing from the weapons charge is kind of blown out of proportion. I'm not really worried about that. It's some
American bias is showing on that, Joey.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But I mean, it for something that like we wouldn't even consider really illegal, where we are recording.
frame of
Um,
reference is important. So I mean, yeah,
sure, yeah. But I mean, as far as like, him coming off the pitch all angry, like I don't know how much disciplinary action really needs to be taken for something like that. I mean, he's aggravated. I mean, we saw Sergio Girassi do this a few weeks ago too, or I guess a couple months ago. At this point, it's been a little while, um, but he didn't really get all the negative attention. Everybody's concerned with his goal scoring, and I think for Adeyemi, if there's going to be negative attention on him in the media, like right now I'm judging him based on how he's playing, and I think I'd like to see a little bit more from him, but we're also like I didn't see enough of him though, and I think that he's a player that as a substitute can absolutely be a difference maker because there aren't a lot of players who can sprint like him, and if you have a couple defenders on the other team who have tired legs, then Adeyemi is a player who can like find space and break away. So um yeah, I don't know. I would like to see a little bit more from Adeyemi, and I've said this in previous episodes too, is that I would love to see Maxi Bayer play as the number 9, and like just let's just see what happens. I mean, that's like what he played when he was at Hoffenheim, if I'm not mistaken.
in a front
So
too. Yeah.
yeah, in the front too, and I mean, we've all discussed the good things that have come from Niko Kovac's front two, and how some of the struggles have almost seemed to happen when he abandoned the front two. So I'd love to see a front two again with a Kareem Adeyemi and Maxi Bayer or Silva combination. And hey, maybe if Seru Girassi is in the front two, that would even benefit him more. I mean, he's a bit more of a target man, so if he has somebody he can play off of, and that's what he did in Stuttgart too. So I don't know. Hard to say, but yeah, would love to see Bayer as an actual striker.
Well, I also just feel like the dribbling threat of Adiemi was kind of something that could have been used 10 minutes earlier in this match. Like, if we go
Yep.
through the guys dribbling, Julian Brandt completed 3 of 4 take-ons. Then you have Valdemar Anton, who's completing 2 of 2 take-ons, but he's doing that, like, so far back on the pitch, like, nowhere near the attacking area, essentially. You have Danny Svensson completing his only take-on, Maxi Bayer, because he's having to shift out wide to accommodate Garasi more centrally. 0 for 4 take-ons. That's not really his game. We've seen that his entire time at Borussia Dortmund. Felix Nemecha had an off day in terms of dribbling. Like, the threat of Karim Adeyemi can open up the game for some of these guys that were struggling to dribble deeper up the pitch, like a Nemecha, by forcing your midfielders to help out wide more. And that's not even to mention the threat that Karim Adeyemi poses with his pace and ability on the ball. So before we go into our next segment, we have a quote from Lars Ricken saying, "The longer the game went on, the better we got, the more dominant we were, and the more chances we created. It would have been extremely bitter to lose after a really good game from us, in which we led twice. I saw determination and conviction from in the final stages. That's what sets this team apart. No one is satisfied with a 3-3 draw because the way we played meant that more was definitely possible." What are our thoughts on this?
So I mean, he's definitely right in the sense that the longer the game went on, the team did play better to a degree, at least in terms of the urgency and all of that. I will say though, like, especially like with the start of the second half, like you did have a moment where Frankfurt seemed to be in the ascendancy. I don't know if you guys particularly remember this specific counterattack, but it was in the 53rd minute where basically the ball is sent forward and about 5 or 6 different Dortmund players tried to stop that counterattack, be it midfielders, defenders, and Ansgar Knauf is still able to get a shot off on goal against Gregor Kobel. And I think that sequence overall kind of encapsulated my issue with this performance, is that we were allowing something like that to occur. And it kind of speaks to like what you were saying, Eli. The midfield was being walked through, and the defense wasn't able to cope with what Frankfurt was pushing up. So did they get better? Yeah, later on, maybe 70 minutes plus, and especially obviously with Carney Chukwuemeka going in and scoring the equalizer. Yeah, great. Glad you were able to do that. But on the flip side, during that phase of play or during that second half, we still let up a lot of chances. I think it was the 90th minute when Dawood scored or something like that, 91st minute, something like
90
that.
90 plus 2.
Yeah, and the second goal came in like the 81st or something like that. So it's like you're saying, yeah, they got better, but also these chances were still being let in, and this is kind of also where the game fell apart. So I guess like I can kind of agree with him from an attacking standpoint. Once again, from a defensive standpoint, I don't think we showed that solidity there.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is coming down to like Chukwuemeka's chance at the end, if you look at it in terms of the underlying numbers or just in terms of the goals, because first half 1-1, second half 2-2. I mean, like, we talked about half their XG coming from the penalty, so obviously like they had other shots in the first half. So I guess maybe you could say a little bit better defensively in the second half in theory, but I don't know, man. It felt very back and forth, and like if this is a home game,
very
for
open
Borussia
game,
Dortmund,
Yeah.
then I'd be a lot more critical. Like, I'm almost like they're sparing their blushes by this being an away game, because if this was a home game, this performance, like I just feel like I'd be a lot more harsh.
And the other thing is, like, Frankfurt isn't a bad team. There's a lot of talent
Yeah.
in that squad. So, like, if you're going to end up in a situation like this against a team, Frankfurt's not exactly the one you're going to be like, oh my God, like, there's a lot more teams. Like, I mean, the St. Pauli 3-3 in the beginning of the season, like, that you can look at and be like, what just fucking happened there?
But this still isn't the Frankfurt team, like, of last year.
It's not.
Like,
it's not. But it still has quality. So,
like, they have quality, but, like, even then, they're starting, like, a U19 player, and he looks, like, very bright, whatever. U19, he might be a little older. Yeah, he's 22 now, but, like, this is a guy with his on his first Bundesliga appearance. Like, they called this guy up from the second tier. He was dominating there. But, like, they haven't had a really good striker this year. Their attack's been up and down. They've kind of been riding hot streaks, and defensively, they're all over the place the whole season. So, like, this is a match where, like, Frankfurt regularly concede 3 goals, and not even to sides the likes of Dortmund's quality. So, to me,
But
it's...
they also have been scoring though too. I'm pretty sure they've had a
for
couple
sure.
like 6-6, like it was 6-4 versus Gladbach or something like
Yeah,
that.
and that was a weird one where I think they were ahead 6-0 and they let
And then yeah,
Gladbach back into that one. And I mean, Frankfurt has been so inconsistent this term. And I mean, Eli, you might have, I mean, you've got more knowledge of the stats than me, but I think Frankfurt is really way ahead of their XG on the season for how many goals they've scored.
They're over
And
by 9, which is about... It's 40... It's, like, probably 40%, 9 over 24. So you're right around, like, a 40% over performance.
it's like
Um,
Bayern's is probably the only team in the league that has a higher over performance from their XG.
Their overperformance is around 33%, so it's lower because they accrue so much
Okay,
XG.
so-
But like Bayern Munich every year overperform their XG by about like 20 to 35%, give or take. Borussia Dortmund overperform their XG on average by like 10 to 20%, and that's because they're dominant teams. Like if you look at Frankfurt's attack this year, it's the 7th best. If you look at their defense, it's also about 7th, 8th best. Like, this is a good team, but it's not the Frankfurt teams that have been challenging for the Champions League in recent years.
True.
Statistically, at least.
Well, we did knock him out of the cup, so there might have been a little extra vengeance.
Well, yeah. Oh, true. Credit to us because like you go there twice, 2 away games for a 7th place team. So you kind of win one morally on penalties, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's start off with our star of the week, and I'll go to Joey.
Star of the week. So I kind of had this down to a couple players, and on the one hand, I was pretty impressed with Felix Mecha in this match. I know Eli mentioned some of his dribbling left a bit to be desired, but I do think, I mean, his passing was pretty good. His goal did take a pretty heavy deflection, I think. But I mean, he got into space a couple times there. And I mean, he's got such power with that foot that, I mean, we've seen him miss a bunch of those in recent games. So I feel like we were kind of due for a Felix Mecha goal. So I want to give him some credit, but I also want to give a lot of credit to Julian Ryerson, because I just thought that he was involved in this game the entire game. I mean, he had that first assist, but I mean, I'm always impressed by his work ethic. So I, I don't know. I'll give it a tie, both of them. I'll give it to Ryerson and Mecha.
Maxi Bayer for me. Need I say more?
Hell yeah.
Every single time this man does well, I have to shout him out because kind of for the same reasons that you shouted out Ryerson, Joey. I think this player is always involved, always shows energy on the pitch, always shows commitment to the cause on the pitch. And now he's scoring goals on top of that, which is obviously what we wanted to see from him from the jump. I do hope we get to see more of this, sustained, and hopefully he can score or outscore, I should say, his last couple seasons, and really show the talent that I believe is definitely there. I think this is a very, very committed and very talented player that, with that finish for the opener, really emphasized that. And yeah, Maxi Bayer, man, star of the week for me.
So there's 2 different guys I'm kind of thinking about a little bit, but then I'm reminded of a big mistake from one, so I gotta go with Julian Brandt. And Julian Brandt in this match, like, didn't get a goal or assist, did not really involve himself in the chance creation or the chance taking in the way he has in some of our other matches recently. But you know what he did do? Team high dribbling, 3 out of 4 take-ons, playing 86 minutes, tied team high for progressive passes at 8 with Nicholas Sula, obviously while in a much more advanced role. He also had 3 passes into the penalty area. So Julian Brandt was kind of, even when he's not contributing with the goals in this match, at the very least in this match, he's still putting in a performance you can be proud of. And with match, I wasn't trying to criticize him for like not completing take-ons or whatever. Like that goes up, that goes down. And a lot of those are like based off the system performance, and I was more talking about the lack of overall team production in that, and he's one of the guys that can do it. But Nemecha, for me, like there's not a lot that's standing out passing wise. I feel like it's bottom third of the team, guys on the pitch for progressive passing distance, very middling progressive passing numbers in this match. And that kind of just goes with my eye test. So maybe we had difference of opinion there, or clearly we did. But, he scored the goal, big deflection, but, it counts more than the deflection, the goal. But saying he's due for a goal is kind of wild because this is a guy who's got 2 goals from 1.1 XG. I mean, that's a very likely thing to happen, but it's not due per se. But let's get into negativity since I already started being negative. And there's so many guys I want to yell at right now. But like with Nico Schlotterbeck, like he made a big mistake, but he's like trying to do something that's like not smart, but it's like it's not the stupidest thing ever, but absolutely gets rolled and is at fault for a goal. However, there's this other guy, Joey. He had one shot. He had one shot. All he gets paid to do is shoot. And he has this challenge, which is like, I don't know. Like we've seen a couple, I feel like, over the head kicks. Not full bicycle kicks, but like a foot planted and a foot kicking the ball, and it goes over his head and into the back of the net. We've seen a couple of those recently. So like people can score. And we even conceded one of those to Undav, I believe it was. But like, I personally think that shot is less likely to go in the back of the net than a penalty, and the risk is just so unnecessary. Like that's just very not smart in my opinion. And then if we're looking at the things you would like a certain striker to do, then I'm just not seeing those. I wasn't seeing them on the pitch. I missed the first half. I watched the second on my phone at the gym. But I did go back and watch the highlights. And you know what I didn't see a lot of highlights for? A number 9. Like, you can miss a midfielder on highlights. But if you're missing a striker on highlights, that's a worry. That's a big worry. I don't know. That's just me.
So your dud is Serhu Girassi, because
of course. Did I not say the name? Yes,
no, there's no name, so yeah. Just
I'll name the name. I'm sorry.
So I'd like to go next, so I can just kind of segue off of that because
piggyback on it.
Yeah, exactly. Girassi is also my dud of the week, and I found this really frustrating because I mean on the one hand, maybe Girassi is not really the guy who should be doing the defending there, but each time I looked at that replay for the penalty, I was thinking like, I don't know how he was going to get anywhere near that ball. So it was surely boneheaded. And, but I think the thing that like really, really drove me crazy, and I tried to watch on the replay, like I went back and forth later and try to line it up, and it's really hard to see. But in the 35th minute, there's a play where, like it's off of a corner, and it's a very hectic box play, and Brandt has this nice little chip, and you think it's about to beat the keeper, and Girassi goes in there, and it almost looks like he does beat the keeper with it, and like this ball's going to float in, but Girassi's going to chest it down and finish it, but then he chests it down to the keeper instead. And I was just thinking like, that's that could have like I think that ball was going in if Girassi hadn't intervened right there. And then I couldn't help thinking like, okay, this could have been a 4-2 with a different player in the number 9 today, Friday. So
But
it's
Joey,
I'm
he's
really
good in the
frustrated
air. Did
with
he win
Girassi.
any? He's good
Did
in
he
the
win
air.
anything in the air? I doubt it. I don't. I'm like other than those two instances, I don't remember like hardly anything from Girassi in this match. And with as back and forth as the game was, like with the number of shots that we had altogether, like it's not like we were not creating opportunities in this game. And like if we're creating 2.39 xg. We had 16 shots and 6 of those on target, and like Grassi had one of those 16 shots as our number 9. I'm frustrated at watching how uninvolved he is in many of our matches, and it just I was hoping he was going to sort of refine his form in this game after the break, but it like many things in this match, it feels like we're just kind of right where we were when we entered the winter break. So
Yeah,
anyway, that's
I talked about I want to give some serious analysis on this. So I talked about going into the winter break that it was like a bad time to criticize Garasi because it was very likely that he would come out in these matches and look much better because that's essentially what happened in the start of the season is he had a bit of rest. He came out and he looked very very good. But this is worrying because he still looked off the pace. He still didn't look fully connected to the play and like we have a game in midweek. Like we have 3 games this week. We probably have 3 next week. Or we might not have 3 next week, but the week after that, I think we have the Champions League again. And so like if not now, when? Like where is it going to come from? Because you could say, oh, it's just a return to form. But like to me, it's becoming clearer and clearer that this is an issue of a player whose fitness is just not fully there. It's not at the level it needs to be. He's at the wrong side of the age curve, and I'm very concerned because if it continues down this slope, we're not talking about a 55 million euro release clause. We might be talking about something a little bit lower, and that's
or considerably
essentially
lower.
looking like yeah, and then you're essentially talking about a net loss because you get one good year last year, you get this year where he's way below par, and you're talking about a spend of about 19 plus 31, so that's 50 million euros spent for not a lot of production.
It'd be nice to have a consistent striker for like a good chunk of time, like I don't know, 4 or 5 years. It's a revolving door of strikers at Dortmund.
Well, I think that's
We
like
were
a huge
spoiled
ask,
back in the
but
day.
We were.
yeah.
Genuinely spoiled with the likes of Lewandowski and Aubameyang.
Yeah, I was
hanging
just
up
thinking
there
about Oba.
for as
Like,
long as they were.
like 5 years is like beyond the physical peak of a striker. So like physical peak of a striker, you're talking about essentially 23 to 26. So you're talking about 3 or 4 years. Like I think if you get a striker in for 3 years, like you're lucky if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm just saying what I would like.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'd like a elite striker at the top of his game for the next 10 years.
I want
Like,
Holland
give
to
me
come back after
yeah,
his
give
25-year contract at City.
yeah, I would have taken him from 20 to 30. I wouldn't have minded that, but
Yeah,
I'll
I
take
know,
a
right?
40-year-old Holland. I bet he'll still be playing like Zlatan.
Brian, you get it out of the week. I think you have some defenders to talk negatively about.
Yeah, I mean, Girassi was on my radar as well, but I don't want to pile on more. I think you guys have said enough on that.
Oh, we said more than enough.
Yeah, I mean, and to what Joey said, I think the most damning thing about that is, and to I guess what both of you guys said is basically this is a player that like you didn't see anything of in the highlights or in the first half. Like for the most part, when he's on the pitch, you didn't see much from him, and you definitely don't want that from your striker. My dud of the week is going to be someone we've ragged on numerous occasions on this pod. Um, it's interesting because Joey had Rierson as one of his stars, possibly. I potentially had him as possibly a dud simply because of his part in that sequence that I'm going to talk about with my dud of the week, which is Emre Can. Because Rierson in that sequence does lose the player, and then in the follow up, once Emre Can is absolutely walked by as if he did not exist, he does whiff the ball right into Dawood's path, and then he's able to do what he did. So yeah, I mean, I watched that sequence numerous times, and as much as Rierson obviously had fault to play in that, I can't help but just not look at the fact that it's almost as if Emre Can did not exist in that play. He let the player completely just walk by him. And I think for me, because this is not just a one-off thing, he's been off the pace and he's been, I feel like almost targeted by opposition attacks when it comes to their game plan. I just feel like he's not up to pace anymore with this level of play, personally speaking. Maybe it might be a harsh assessment. I don't know. I mean, we're not spoiled for choice, especially considering Rami Bensebaini wasn't there. And so Mino is injured, I believe, still.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, you had to take Sula off. He was gassed, and you had to put Chan on. I get it. I understand. But it's just instances like that and just like the lack of the ability to react is what worries me the most. And that's what I saw there. And I think that's just becoming more and more common with him. So, yeah, I mean, enough said, I feel like.
I think that's a reasonable shout.
There's one other player I want to talk about in this section just because we did it, and like he's firmly involved in the build-up for the first goal. So like I can understand he did have a lot of net positives in this match, and that's Nico Schlotterbeck, obviously, leading our build-up in about every statistic possible aside from dribbling. However, in the build-up to the second goal, what is this guy doing? Like, I think I know what he's doing. Like, he's trying to go up, get aggressive, and win the ball, but he's just a little late, and he allows, is it Calamuendo to come in field, turn, and play the ball into space that Schlotterbeck vacated. And, like, we could say that, is it like Anton or whatever could track that run better, but like Nico Schlotterbeck cannot get turned in transition there. Like if he gets turned in transition, I don't know if he was on a yellow card at that point, but that's where you got to take one. He was the only member of the back line at that point in the match without one. And at that point, you either need to take the yellow card or get the ball. Like you need blood or ball on your cleat at the end of that play, and he gets neither. Blood's a little vicious. Like, hopefully we don't injure the player, but that's just a saying that I made up that I'm sure approximates something. Like, you need to get man or ball, I guess it would be. He gets neither. That's a bit of an issue. Has to be mentioned, but I think we can stand by our duds there.
I think particularly with that, the one thing that I do want to bring up is like, and maybe this doesn't matter as much as it's kind of like sticking in my head right now, but you're basically getting an assist from a player that just came in, first start, and a goal from a player from the second division in that sequence, first start, two players that have completely never played together. Obviously professionals and all that. I just feel like even seeing that for me, like just the way they were able to connect through our defense kind of is also a little bit of like that indictment for me. It's like you allowed this sort of play to occur with players that didn't even really have that sort of level of synergy, or that you wouldn't have expected to necessarily excel in a game against like Borussia Dortmund. I don't know, like it's obviously not the be all end all, because once again, these are two professionals that know how to play the sport. They get paid for it, but just watching that occur with the ease that it did made me uncomfortable. So.
Yeah, I think the synergies like doesn't matter as much when you give a guy that much space in transition. Like that's very elementary stuff, especially for a guy in Calamuendo who had like 20 goal contributions, something like that last season. Or he had 20 goals, so he actually had like 30 goal contributions, I think it was last season.
Fair play.
A lot of penalties, a lot of XG over performance, but like this guy's still been around for a long time and has been playing like at the top of French football for like 3 or 4 years now. And the other player, like, uh, you'd expect Dortmund to like keep a guy quiet who scored 12 goals in 1,282nd tier minutes. Don't get me wrong, but like that's still a good player.
No, not a
But
knock on either player, obviously,
yeah,
but it's just
I
like,
wasn't saying. I
yeah.
just wanted to say some positives about their players, because I feel like we've gotten a little harsh, but we can move into the next quote we have from Niko Kovac as we look forward to our next match. Everyone arrived from Frankfurt in good shape. We will still be without Aaron and Salmino. We will assess Remy Bensebaini tomorrow to see if it makes sense to include him in the squad. I believe we have Werder Bremen coming up.
It is Bremen, yep.
Yep.
So, what are our thoughts on this? Do you expect either of those players to start? It seems like Remy's a bit more likely.
Yeah, I would like to see Bensebaini back in the back three. I think he's shown this season that he can perform quite well there. And granted, Sula has performed admirably when called upon. Um, Obviously, even in this game, didn't seem fully fit to start the full 90 minutes. So I think we might see a little bit of both Sula and Bensebaini. But that, to me, sounds a lot better than Sula and Emre Can swapping in for each other for obvious reasons. Uh, yeah, I would love to see Bensebaini get in. Who else possibly to start? I'd love to see Girassi benched for this game. I think it's a good chance to either, like you guys are saying, put Bayer up there, up top, or play the front two with a combination of one of the three of Bayer, Adiemi, or Silva. I think there's clearly a need to freshen up there. And I think this is a good opportunity with it being a home game against Bremen for Kovac to do that, to give Girassi some time on the bench and see what the others do in this situation. So those are my hopes.
I believe we're
Yeah.
3 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses with Maxi Bayer and Kareem Adiemi in the front too, but that's just me. I don't know.
Solid.
There you go.
I do hope we see Bensebaini back, but I'm not necessarily holding my hopes out for it just because he is returning from the Africa Cup of Nations, and I think it's really, I mean, it's difficult to know how exhausted he might be from traveling, from training with the national team, or if he really has like a starting place in him. Would love to see him in the squad. I'm really hoping that he is in the match day squad. But I do think that there is a chance that we don't see him until the weekend.
Totally fair.
Like Brian, I would love to see a front two. But thinking more realistically, I'd love if Kovac would switch back to the front two, but I'm not really sure he's going to. Maybe he'll surprise me, but I would still love to see Girassi benched in favor of maybe Silva with Adiemi and Bayer, and maybe Brandt as the 10. Of course, we have another game next weekend, so I don't want to overwork Brandt, but um, yeah, keep Emre Can on the bench for sure. And I mean, another reason I think I'd really like to see Bensebaini back in the back three is that I do think Nico Schlotterbeck plays better as a central defender than as like the left back of the back three. I think the same thing with like in a back four. He's better as, I mean, obviously on the left side because he's left footed, but he's better in this as a central defender than as the left part of a back three. So I'd like to see him back in the middle.
Yeah, and also like in this last match, you did see like Brandt was very much a left-sided 10, but like he was not often found in the box as much as he had been earlier this season, so it was a lot more similar to a front two with Maxi Bayer going in, and that's just kind of like Brandt trying to fill the gaps in like ball progression and creativity. There we go. Moving on, we have a match this coming weekend as well against FC St. Pauli. So what are you guys kind of expecting from this one?
Definitely not another 3-3. We don't need that again. Both these games, I believe, are home games, so they should both be wins, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think Dortmund have an excuse there. Just confirm that real quick, because I do want to make sure I'm not talking.
It is a home game.
It is a
against
home
St.
game,
Pauli.
right?
I cannot.
Just
I
making sure.
don't remember against
No,
Werder.
Bremen is 100% a home game. I checked that today, so for sure that's a home game. So they are both home games. In the advent of this 3-3 draw against Frankfurt, I think the onus is on Dortmund to get 3 points in both of these games. That's all I'll say
Brian,
about that.
how about I give
Absolutely.
you a reason to be optimistic? In terms of league rankings, we are facing the 17th and 18th best attacks by XG created. Does that make you feel a little better?
Yeah, I mean it does, but also 3-3 against St. Pauli. I've said it a million times just on this episode. You never know what you're gonna get. But listen, I'm not being negative here. I'm saying we should get the win. I think on paper we're very much the team that should be winning.
I was trying to support your argument.
God bless.
One more thing on Werder Bremen that might play to Dortmund's favor as well is that I believe this will be Bremen's first game back from the winter break, because their match got postponed over the weekend. So hopefully, in theory, Dortmund will be a little bit fresher. As far as the St. Pauli game goes, I missed the first edition of this match at the beginning of the season, but I have to imagine, a win is necessary in a game like this. Like Brian said, not another 3-3 draw, not even another 1-1 draw. I'm a big fan of St. Pauli, but they are struggling this season, and I mean, it's the exact kind of game that Borussia Dortmund in past years has struggled with. So I'm hoping, here's hoping, that these are both wins. You know what? I believe they'll both be wins.
I got quick non-financial advice for you, but 3-1 over Werder, 3-0 over St. Pauli.
Bold predictions.
I think they'll be correct.
I'm going to be optimistic as well and say I think, 3-1 with Werder sounds about right, and I'm going to say, considering it's game after game pretty close together, I'm going to say 2-0 against St. Pauli. I think some fatigue might set in. So
St. Pauli are better defensively, but
so I'm not going to argue with the Werder prediction, because that is what I wrote down was 3-1. I think that's fair. And St. Pauli, I think we're going to have leaky defense, so I think that's going to be 3-2, and we're all going to think it's going to be a 3-3 till the very last minute.
well, that's bad vibes, Joey. Don't put that out into the universe. Next up, we
Dortmund.
have. Listen, we're already on to the next. We're talking about Quinton Timber. Links could become more concrete. Player seems to prefer move to Germany and turn down Lazio. Free transfer in the summer is possible, as he will be out of contract. Some other sources aside from Bild have reported this, as OneFootball have noted they may try to get it done in the winter. However, that seems unlikely. Brian first recommended this to Sebastian Kehl on our podcast. Did Sebastian Kehl listen?
Maybe.
I would say yes, but you never know.
2 years ago, 3 years ago at this point. I've been talking about Quinton Timber for years.
For him to run his contract down.
Yeah, well, you know what? He might have done the right thing there. Listen, I think this is a great player. I'm not going to go into the details because I feel like I gush over this player whenever every single time we talk about him. Just like, he's good at this, he's good at that. We've been over it. He is a good player. What I've seen a lot online is a lot of people have had concerns, and they've said that, with a player like, for example, Felix Nemecha or Joe Bellingham already in the team, there might not necessarily be a need for a player like Timber. I disagree. I think that, granted, he's not exactly a 6. He's more an 8. It does seem like Dortmund are still going forward with this project of possibly putting Nemecha in that 6 role. I don't know if that's what they're planning, but if that's the case, then you do need a player that can play 8 consistently. We still have not seen that from Joe Bellingham as yet. Could he develop into that in the second half of the season? Sure. But I think this is, considering it would be on a free transfer if he is coming in the summer, I think this is a bit of a no-brainer, especially if the likes of Salihochan are going to be leaving. Pascal Gross is already gone. I do think you need the extra player there. So I guess really it will depend what happens in the second half of the season, who steps up. But this is a player that can play multiple positions, a very solid player at that. Yeah, I say go for it personally, but we'll see.
You also have like 830 league minutes from Sabitzer this season. Like, would you rather watch Quinton Timber or Sabitzer?
I think the answer there is quite easy.
I think we're on the same page.
I think we are.
And if we can get him on a free, that's even better.
Absolutely. And that would allow you to like eat a little bit of the money from Sabitzer as well to help move on there. Maybe he wants to go to San Jose with his buddy Timo Werner.
Turbo Timo.
You never know.
Absolutely. Just what Silicon Valley needs, an actual fun team to watch. Next up, we have from Sport 1 via the press conference. Everyone can see that we can't attack Bayern. This team already has an extra class that's currently not to be seen anywhere else in the Bundesliga. We all have to accept that. Thoughts on this quote?
Yeah, so I mean, this is coming from Niko Kovac. I just put this in here because once again, I feel like this is a topic that we broached on a couple of the episodes recently. Yeah, it's just like I understand needing to be realistic and pragmatic and all these things, and I think this kind of like speaks to like what I had mentioned, like both in our group chat and on previous episodes. It's like if you keep talking in this fashion, you are not setting yourself up for success. And I don't think you're inspiring any of the players or fans for that matter using this sort of rhetoric. And it's like, if it's a one-off, if you're just being like, yeah, Bayern's doing great, cool, totally understood. But if you continue to say like, yes, Bayern are our masters, we can't do anything. We have to, just abide by the status quo. Like, I don't think that is an appealing thing. And I don't think it's something that really should be as prevalent as it is. So I do have problems with this sort of rhetoric.
I do tend to agree with that. I mean, of course, it's hard because Bayern comes out after the winter break and absolutely obliterates Wolfsburg 8-1 or 8-0 or whatever that score was. And
8-1.
I mean, yeah, we all know that Bayern has a financial advantage. We all know that Bayern Munich dominates teams. Like it's not like we don't need to be told that. Everybody knows that already, and it is very
It's
much
redundant.
as Brian said, like it's kind of sets ourselves up for the disappointment of not being able to challenge Bayern. And maybe realistically we're not challenging for the title this season and we're 10 points behind. I think it's much more realistic that we fight for second place, but we are going to keep fighting. I mean, Bayern has fought back and overturned a 9-point deficit in half a season before. So
Well, 11,
it's
but
however many points. Like, it's not like it is impossible. Highly unlikely, sure. But we want to be able to challenge next year, right? So, like, sort of setting this expectation and then repeating it again kind of feels like just sort of admitting defeat before we get to a place where we're disappointed at getting second or third place again, when it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy if we're always playing for second place. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's just redundancy in my opinion, and I completely agree with all of that. I think you're basically at a point where you're the second best team in Germany, whatever. You want to be able to put up at least the face that you want to compete. And once again, if this was just a one-off saying like, you know what, Bayern's doing really well, whatever. You can say we'll do the best we can until the end of the season. We're going to continue to push to see how far our team can go and go to the best of our ability to finish as high as we possibly can. You don't have to necessarily just be like, yeah, there's no way we could challenge Bayern. It's like, it's just, I don't know. It's the redundancy of it. It's the amount of times it's been said. It's overt realism, in my opinion. It's like you just don't have to go into that sort of detail in praising your opposition.
I mean, I can't be asked to care about this one that much because, like, he's not saying anything about the money. He's just saying they're a class above, and they're 11 points clear. You can't really argue with it. He's not saying like next year we can't, but like he's not saying this year. Well, he's kind of saying that this year's gone, but like also like it's an 11-point lead. Like Bayern
Oh,
would have
sure.
to shoot themselves in the foot and cut off their
Yeah.
head for us to have a chance.
Listen, if this was a one-off thing, I get it, but I think it's a redundancy of it. And the other thing
I
that comes
cannot be
to
asked.
the other thing that comes to mind for me is like if you're a player like Nico Schlotterbeck and you're seeing your coach say this kind of stuff, it's like what are you offering then? Why should I be signing that?
Mhm.
If you're saying that we're just not competing now, like yeah, you're not saying you're not going to compete next season, but how much needs to change for you to be able to compete? If the mindset isn't there, what is saying a player like Nico Schlotterbeck sign another extension?
Well, there's
Like,
like
that's where
Exactly.
talk.
mindset and there's delusion. Like, what's he supposed to say? Well, Bayern are 11 points clear, but I think if we win the next 18 straight matches, sorry, 19 straight
No,
matches, like,
no.
whatever it
That's,
is.
he doesn't need to say that. He doesn't have to say like, "Oh, Bayern are
Oh,
like a
this is
class
ridiculous.
above all this stuff." Like he could just say like, "Yeah, we'll do the best we can for the rest of the season." That's it. Like you just don't need to be like, "Yeah, there's absolutely no way like we're doing anything." Like there's Bayern are just so much better than us. Like I don't know. I just feel that's throwing in the towel unnecessarily. Like you just don't need to make those comments, in my opinion. But that's just me.
I'm just gonna move on to the next story at this point. I feel like we're fundamentally opposed on this one. Bild is saying that Borussia Dortmund are interested in Alexander Stankovic from Bruges for strategic reasons. Something could happen in the winter as the player is cheaper this winter than the summer. I think he's there on loan with like an option for them to buy from like Inter or something. He's not a very exciting player. I have no real interest in this. It's just Build. I think we were previously linked with him in the summer, but it did not occur.
So my understanding is more of and granted, I don't really watch Brugge like that. So yeah, like to my understanding, he's more of a defensive midfielder. So I think for the people that feel that we need to bring in that sort of player, which obviously I'm not saying I'm not. I do think having a more proper defensive midfielder would help. Um, but at least he fits that mold of a player coming in to fill that role. Once again, I don't know too much about how well he's played this season. Um, but yeah, he's definitely been a name that's been linked multiple times. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, like you want a good six if you're gonna get a six. You know what I mean? Like this guy's not. I mean, he is 20 years old. I thought he was a bit older for whatever reason. But he's not been like lighting it up. But he's a lot younger than I thought. So I'll say that.
Well, we'll just
Joey,
have
any
to.
thoughts here?
I mean, it's Build. It's not a player I know too much about, if I'm going to be honest. So I just kind of defer to you guys on this one.
Um, I don't know. I mean, Bruges have some exciting young recruitment, but they're only a point off Union Saint-Gilloise, and they haven't even gotten into the playoff type format that they do in there. But I'm not even sure he's playing the six because Onyedika's still there and he's the six. So I haven't
I
gotten
don't
to
know.
watch as much Bruges this year, so I can't say too much. But we can move on. Nico Kovac and Joe Bellingham said, as a human being, he's wonderful. He's an educated, humble guy who wants to work hard and to improve every single day, either by watching footage or training on the pitch or on training pitch. It's absolutely what a coach wants. What are our expectations for Joe Bellingham for the second half of the season? I think my expectations for myself personally are to read much better in the second half of the season than I have today. For Joe Bellingham, I'm expecting like some solid performances and setting up for, I think, a very good year next year. Because what we've seen this year from Joe Bellingham, like I know he's gotten a lot of criticism, but I feel like on the pitch he's honestly been, aside from like the two goal defining mistakes, he's been pretty much exactly what I expected. I don't know. You guys heard me talk about him a lot in the summer. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think. Go ahead, Joey.
I was just gonna say, I mean, one thing that concerns me a little bit about this quote is that Kovac doesn't say very much about playing Job or Job's like it's very vague. And I mean, yes, Job does seem like a really nice individual. I think my expectations for Job in this second half are pretty similar to Eli's. I'd like to see a bit more from him than we saw in the first half of the season, and I'd like him to establish himself within this squad as a regular starter, so that he can be one of the players that hopefully we can build around this summer, because there's going to be quite a bit of turnover, and I mean he's one of the new players, so the chances of him leaving this summer are highly unlikely. So if he can get to a position where he's part of the starting 11 at least, 2 out of 3 matches a week, and good enough to be playing there, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that. And I do think we are going to see an improvement. I mean, he is young. He's certainly not Jude, but he's got a very different play style, different position, and yeah, I mean the club, like Dortmund as a whole, seems to have a lot of faith in him and his development. So I mean, I think there are good things to come from Job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same camp. I think he'll have definitely a better second half of the season. I think he'll be more comfortable in the second half. He's already been here half a year, or half a season, I should say. So yeah, I mean, maybe a couple more goals and assists, more consistency, and more confidence on the pitch is what I'd
Mhm.
expect to see, considering he's now more familiar with the team and stuff like that. Um, and less, I guess, not because of him necessarily theatrics, but less theatrics, kind of like what we saw in the first half of the season, where you see these rumors about like his parents getting upset about like his playing time and stuff like that. It's like more focus on the actual football itself
Yeah.
than focus on like what's going on behind the scenes with him, because I think all of that was absolutely unnecessary, and I think even how much it was talked about was unnecessary. So yeah, I'm expecting a much much more solid second half of the season from Job.
Yeah, and he's now had 1,000 minutes for Dortmund this season, just over. And if he hits 2,000 minutes without being like a liability constantly, then I'm pretty happy with that this season. Like, this is a guy that's coming from the championship who was good there, filling gaps, but not like lighting the world on fire. And he's not been a liability, I think, aside from two very small instances. And he's so young. We signed him on a 5-year deal. Like, next year, I'll start to be a lot more strict in terms of my judgment. But let's move on. We have to talk about a very, 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 very serious topic, and that's giving a shout out to our top 5 in the Dortmund Dispatch Fantasy Bundesliga. Everyone knows that the bragging rights in this league are very high. Isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah, sure.
We have 198 members, so it's very serious.
Super
And
serious.
all our hosts take this equally seriously,
As you can
except
tell.
for
Yes.
Ali and Pedro, because in their country I don't think they are allowed to download this app. But let's start off with whoever finished in 5th. This is Lasty FC. Shout out to Lasty. You did not finish last this week. Then we have Soko Durst auf Hansa Pils. Enjoy your beer. You deserve it. Finished 4th. Top of the league currently, and 3rd on the week is Supercalifragilistic. Great job, great performance. Not good enough for 2nd this week, which was KKP BG. No idea what that means. I hope it's not anything bad. Please don't clip it if it is. You finished 2nd, but you weren't good enough. You weren't good enough to beat me, baby. Top of the league for the first time this year. Yours truly. My team name is Oso Beans. Please don't copy my team. Will I do well again this week? Probably not. If you want to know who fueled my week, it was the Bayern triumvirate of Kane, Diaz, and Olise. Helped out by, Nico Schlotterbeck, Nicolas Sula, kind of let me down there, but
Oh yes, thanking
forgiven.
Bayern on the Dortmund podcast, of course.
Well, mostly thank Nico Schlotterbeck, because he was an excellent pickup over Alex Grimaldo. who is the most common starred defender. That was really where I went different. And made up some points there. Also had Vuskovic, and another Dortmund player, but on loan, Diant Ramai, scored me like 300 points. Solid pickup there. So had a lot of Dortmund flavor, Joey. Had a lot of Dortmund flavor in the team.
That's what we like to see.
But
and I always have to give a shout out to Pints of Bayer though, because that's my favorite team name.
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best team name.
Listen, we're talking about me right now.
Grab your beer and enjoy it. That sounded pretty good too.
Soko Durst auf Hansa Pils.
Oh, I like that one.
Was the beer one. But yeah, Pints of Bayern third overall. But, I'm top 15 in the league, fueled by my excellent performance, I will say.
Keep it up.
Thank you. I was very, very pleased this weekend looking at the scores. But good luck to everyone. But, not all at my level for last week. Match week 16, baby. That's me.
Jadon Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh,